Jesus is the balance between feminine and masculine energy. Jesus is not meant to be understood as a literal man that walked the earth, but rather Jesus is an esoteric symbol, an occult symbol. Christianity is a mystery religion. It was never meant to be understood as a literal thing. The Bible was created as a tool to create order and control in civilization. It was created in a way that everybody could find what they were looking for in it. If you were a literalist, you could find what you wanted. You wanted hope of a savior. If you were an esoteric or an occultist person, you could find the symbolism. It has all of the paganism in it. It has everything that everybody could unite in it. Rome was steeped in paganism. Rome was steeped with different belief systems, and there was so much infighting going on that there's no way you could create unity or bring them all together unless they were able to find familiarities within this belief system, right? So we all know that Jesus wasn't actually born on December 25th. Christmas is a pagan holiday. Easter is a pagan holiday. All these things were meshed together to bring peace and order to society. The pro to this is that a belief system for a nation can cause unity. It can cause strength in numbers, right? The con is that it makes people more controllable. The Bible contains the common motifs of all of the previous religions and spiritual practices that came before it. You find all of the motifs there, all of the cues, all of the numbers, everything that pertains to these ancient spiritual mystery schools and religions are all contained in the Bible. You can find it all in the Bible. This is why the Bible is used in fraternities and secret societies, because regardless of where you are on your spiritual journey, you can find something in it that speaks to you. Christianity is often referred to as a European religion, when in actuality, Christianity is a bunch of borrowed motifs from previous spiritual beliefs going all the way back to ancient Egypt or Kemet. These common motifs, they trickled up through all of the ancient Egyptian beliefs, Hinduism, coming into paganism. It all just springboards off of each other. So it's not that Christianity is just something invented out of the blue by Europeans. This is stuff that's been borrowed from previous systems. So Christianity is not the belief of any one particular race. It's not any one particular race's belief. It's actually a smorgasbord of a lot of different beliefs brought together. So for those who believe that Christianity is a European belief system used to control and keep other races down, keep in mind that Europeans are being manipulated and deceived and controlled through Christianity as well. They are ignorant in this as well. We need to be careful that we don't let this create more division. What we need is more unity amongst the human race, not just a particular race. So to embrace your godly nature, to walk like God, to walk upright like God, to talk like God, to think like God, you have to embrace all races. Because the reality is that God or Source created all humanity, okay? God didn't create one race as a favorite over another. God embraces all races, just like the sun is an archetype of the one that gives life to all without judgment, right? That we have to find within ourselves, and we have to let that live through us and let that light shine through us in order to live up to our knowledge of self and our godly self. The symbolic Christ is order of masculine and feminine energy. Masculine and feminine energy are creative forces that bring life into existence, not only physically, but also spiritually. These two creative energies are the reason the universe came into existence. These two forces of creation that God uses created Jesus, right? Jesus being symbolic of us, because what Jesus is a symbol of spirit and matter combined. This is what made Jesus a mediator, right? Because Jesus had one foot on the earth and one foot in the spirit world. The same thing with us. We're both physical and spiritual. Jesus is basically an avatar of us. The story of Jesus is the story of us. You see, that's the physical Jesus. The physical Jesus is our physical being. The spiritual Jesus is the Jesus that takes place within ourselves. The passion of Christ is the passion of us going through this life and suffering. Our sacrifice is giving up this body, our comfort, right? Because we left that spiritual realm of consciousness and we came here. That was the sacrifice. We were sacrificed by coming here and putting ourselves through this. This is a sacrifice to what was. And the truth is that we didn't have separate spirits that we came down and got in these bodies and lived our life. The truth is that there is one universal spirit, the Spirit of God, universal consciousness, came down and inhabited our bodies. These bodies that we have are inhabited by the universal Spirit of God. So the story of Jesus is the story of us. We came down into these bodies and we are being sacrificed, okay? All of this pain and suffering, it's our sacrifice. And then at the end, when we shed this body, we go back to our glory. We attain ascension. We go back, we are resurrected back to our true self. God, we're united with Source once again. Our true self finally cut loose from the strains of false identity, false ego, suffering of the physical body. We have overcome all these things. And I shouldn't say we, I have overcome these things. And by saying I mean your inner spirit as well, because we're all one inner spirit. But in order for us to exist, there has to be balance between the male and female creative forces. Because if something is out of balance, there is no pattern, there is no order. It's just chaos, right? For example, the stars have to be, the planets, they have to be placed in a certain order, right? They have to maintain that certain order, that certain pattern, because if the sun gets off just by so many degrees, it's going to cause death and destruction for all of existence. So there has to be a balance, and that balance is what allows life to exist and to function properly. This is why Jesus is symbolic of balance. Jesus is balance, because Jesus came down, Jesus being symbolic of us, Jesus also being symbolic of all of God's creation, coming down and living in the order that it's supposed to, fulfilling the function that it is supposed to, being able to sustain itself and being able to play the role that it was given and meant to play. Keep in mind the symbol of Jesus has different layers, okay? You have an outer Jesus and an inner Jesus, okay? The physical Jesus is what I'm referring to mostly here, not the inner Jesus, okay? The things that decay, they rot and eventually perish. Now, on the other side of that coin, we do have the inner Christ within ourselves that is balanced as well, okay? We have mental health. When it's at its peak, when it's functioning correctly at 100, that is the risen Christ within. That is optimal attainment, right? Whenever we have a healthy, balanced mentality between the masculine and feminine energies and principles from the right and the left side of the brain, they're working together correctly. We are a healthy specimen. We're living a balanced life. We see things with clarity. We're not poisoned by doctrine and belief. We're able to be in the present moment. We're able to understand what reality is. These things are all the Christ mind. So each and every one of us are literally God in the flesh. We come into this earth as sons and daughters of God, but over time, as we gain knowledge of self, we realize that we are God walking on this earth in the flesh, and it's up to us to live up to that ideology. We can't be walking around with our head down, feeling sorry for ourselves, feeling like we lack or we're not good enough. We can't be looking down on our fellow human beings. We can't be looking at all of their mistakes and judging them as lower than us. We have to understand through God vision that we are a different person now. We are God in the flesh. When we realize that we are literally God in the flesh, anxiety disappears, fear disappears, all those negative aspects of ourself disappear. We start to look at the world through the lens of a higher consciousness. When we realize we are God consciousness, there is no fear of death, there is no fear of loss, because we realize that the only thing that can die or perish is that which is not real, that which is not everlasting or eternal. That pure consciousness, that God within us is eternal and connected to everything. We could never be separate from life. We could never be separate from anything that exists, because we are one with everything. The purpose of life is to live your life in a way that is approved of by the grand archetype. That grand archetype being the sun in the sky, that one that we can all see and witness for ourselves, that gives its life and light and energy to everybody regardless of who or what they are. And always keeping the golden rule in mind: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. This is the grand calling of life, and it's my hope that we can all strive to live up to our highest Christ-like potential. Stay blessed.